Good afternoon. It's afternoon where I am. What we have on the bench today is a Gibson SG shaped object. I stole that explanation or description from someone else you may know. This is actually a silver tone. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it's an entry-level guitar, and the person that owns this guitar, young man, is just starting out. He's just learning, which is fine. We all started at some point. I've been playing for many moons, but everybody started at some point. So he's starting with this guitar, and the complaints are it doesn't play well. And you know my mantra: every single guitar and guitar player, bass player, when they're first starting out, deserves to have their instrument play as well as it can possibly play. And 99 times out of 100, it's just because it's been set up wrong. This particular guitar was not only restrung wrong, incorrectly, but it was probably shipped from the factory with some issues. First and foremost, the neck pickup is so far away from the strings that it's probably not even working correctly. This one is probably a little too close. But the main thing that I found is the bridge or saddle that you want to call this is facing the wrong way. The intonation screws are here, which anybody can look at it and know that when you need to adjust the intonation, you need to be able to get at these little screws down here, and they're facing the wrong way. They should be facing towards the back of the guitar. Not only that, but these three saddles are facing the wrong way. These three individual saddles are facing the right way. They have a dip on them, and the string is supposed to ride up over it. There's kind of a bevel to them. I don't know if the camera will pick up on that. It should autofocus into it and give you some idea, but 3 of them are right and 3 of them are wrong, and I don't know if somebody else worked on the guitar or if it was built that way and shipped. This guitar seems to be relatively new. In other words, it probably hasn't been in existence all that long. Guitars like this, I don't bother running the numbers on. They're not anything special, but we're going to make it special enough to play correctly. This young man deserves to have a guitar that is set up correctly and plays correctly and stays in tune. And I believe that I can take this thing that he is saying doesn't play well, buzzes, string action is too low or too high, and the strings are buzzing, and one of the pickups isn't working. Initial checkout told me that these are working, but they need to be adjusted. The pickups look like P90 knockoffs. His output jack is loose and flopping around, and his pickup selector button, the button that sticks up there is like a gear shift. Tells you to go to treble or rhythm to split these or play them both in series. Somebody lost the shift knob and it's stripped out in there. We're going to order him a new selector switch and put it in there. We're going to have to solder that in, take the old one out, put the new one in. We'll get to that. Like I said, I've done a preliminary checkout on this guitar, and I know I can make it play right for this young man. And I'm going to put a new set of 9s on, Ernie Ball 9s. 9s are a little bit easier to play, and a beginner, that's what I recommend. Later on, of course, we're going to put 10s on it. Now, if you want to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're going to put 11s on it, but we're going with 9s. That's what today's selection is. So, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do, and one of the complaints was when I tune the guitar, I have to turn the tuning pegs the wrong way. They're backwards. Well, no, the tuning pegs aren't backwards. Somebody wound the string around the left side instead of on the right side, and that's why it feels like they're backwards. So obviously we're going to fix that. We're going to cut all the strings off and get back to you on that, and then we're going to start on this. So stand by. So you can see I cut the strings off. Not only did they not put the strings on correctly, there was only one wrap on top of the string, which one of the complaints was it won't stay in tune. Well, that's because there weren't enough wraps on there, and we're going to go over that again and show you how to do it. This is what I'm talking about. Those screws that are facing this way are supposed to be facing this way, and half of these saddles are facing the correct direction and the other half are not. So we're going to have to take that apart and then get it sorted out and put it back where it belongs, so that we can not only adjust string height but intonation at that juncture when we get there. Come on, baby. Maybe that's why they had it backwards, because something doesn't seem to be wanting to fit correctly here. This is how you adjust your string height on a Gibson style guitar, bridge, saddle, whatever you want to call it. And let's just put them all the way down. Let's see if that helps. Get them level. It should just slide right on there. And it doesn't seem to want to be. So somebody at some point decided, oh, we'll just flip it around and make it fit on there that way. But see, that way it doesn't want to go either. It was a little easier, but not quite. So what we'll do is we'll open one of them up a little bit at a time until it flops down on there. It's getting there. That should just slide right down on there, and it's not. So I'm guessing that this thing is a little whopped out here. Let's see, what does it say on here? Sung-il, Korea. That explains a lot. But we'll make it work. Stand by. So we're back. What is the problem here is, first of all, that thread set there wasn't all the way down into the body, so I tapped it down in there. It should still accept this bridge, but what is happening, it goes down on this one nice, and not that one, no matter where I adjust it. So what we're going to have to do is modify this hole. It's always this hole that doesn't want to go in there, and when I look at it with my hairy eyeball, I can see that it wasn't drilled straight. So you never know what you're going to find when you're working on a guitar. It ain't the end of the world. I'm going to drill that out, get it straight, and I'm not going to film that. I have to get over to the drill press and do it correctly. We'll get back at you. Okay, so we sorted all these out, and it was not fun. It's a very weird mechanism, but as I said before, 3 of these were facing the wrong direction. The whole bridge, the whole saddle itself was facing the wrong direction, so now the screws are back here where when I go to adjust the intonation, I'll be able to reach them. Otherwise, they're in here and you can't get a tool on it. From the factory, it was installed backwards. Not only was that backwards, the entire unit, but they had 3 of these facing this way and 3 of them facing that way. So I had to take them all apart, get them facing all in the right direction. You can see I have them kind of straight. So when we get later on into the setup, we're going to be able to set the intonation. That'll go there, strings through there, good. So for now, what we're going to do is clean up the neck and dress it with some linseed oil. That's just a quick cleanup. A little bit of go juice. Don't be afraid. You're not going to kill your guitar. Just don't use anything with silicone. You don't need to get crazy on it. You'll see the goop that comes off of there in a minute. Get off the guitar too. We'll clean the whole guitar later. Already you can see that. Dirt, gook, DNA, smoke, who knows what's on there. Get that, look at that nastiness. I want to take it off. Don't keep rubbing it into the neck. Scrub it a little bit, clean it up. Usually one pass is enough. If it's a really old guitar, which I know this one is not, but somebody played it because it had a bunch of stuff on there. You get it cleaned off, scrape it off first, get it down to where you're at. And then we're going to do, somebody has played this guitar a fair amount. You got some, they didn't know how to play up here yet, but they've been playing down here. You can see that where the strings have actually tapped onto the fingerboard. Fret eraser. I'm going to show you the first few. Start with 1,000 grit and work your way to 400 and then 180. These things are a lifesaver. Go slow and be careful. All this does is take tarnish off of the fret itself and will shine it and make it smooth. So you start with 1,000 and you're going to work your way all the way up the neck. This is some Zen stuff. I'm going to show you the first one. And I'm going to do the whole guitar. I'm going to shut off the video and do the whole guitar. Move to 400. And if you think this doesn't help, it does. It makes the guitar play better, smoother. Your tactile feel on the fretboard, the strings, the way they interact with the fret, it helps a lot. So, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole board. In a minute, we'll be back. So we're just finishing up with 1,000. I had it backwards. You start, the higher the number, the finer. So you start with the lower number, 180 to 400 to 1,000. And it's just take your time, hit each fret, and it does make a difference. Let me see. Put that away. Clean it again. A little bit of rub-a-dub-dub. Clean it off. And then we're going to treat it with some linseed oil, and you're going to watch how that dull board comes to life. Gook, dirt, gook, nastiness. So, I treat all of my bare neck guitars. When I say bare neck, some guitars have lacquer on the fretboard and sometimes the frets. You don't like that, but if it's a bare neck board like this one is, you got your probably a maple neck. And you put a little linseed oil on there. You're going to start. You just put it on. Don't be afraid. Get it on there. Put some more. Oh! That was a little more than I would use, but let's not waste it. First to apply it. See how sharp that neck looks now, that fretboard? Make sure you got a good amount on there. Not too much like I just did, but be careful. Then you take a clean cloth and you wipe it off. Probably a couple of times you want to wipe it off. Leave it sopped on there. One more pass, you should be good. And this will pull itself into the wood, whatever kind of wood it is. Being that it's an entry-level guitar, I don't imagine that it's rosewood or anything like that, but it could be. You never know. You never know. Big difference in the way that board looks now. Darker, deeper, and it will last for a year. You want to treat it once a year like that. So, I did a little quick cleanup. Everything is ready to go. We're ready to restring this guitar, but before I do that, I want to get after this switch. So the next video we see, we're going to have this thing flipped upside down on the back. We're going to open up this cavity. As I said, the little shifter knob is missing off of our pickup selector. We're going to pull that out. We're going to unsolder the old one, and we're going to solder a new one in. And while we're in there, we're going to fix this loose output jack. That is not just, don't ever just put a wrench on there and try to tighten those down, because all you're doing is spinning wires in there and you'll end up pulling something off. So there's a right way to do it, there's a wrong way to do it, just like everything. In the meantime, I'm going to set the neck in a straight condition so that it can store for a day or two while I wait for the parts to come for the pickup selector. I cleaned it up slightly with a little bit of my favorite product. As you can see, this is what I use. I suggest you use the same thing. We'll talk soon.